You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
Folks, sad day all across the nation's capital, as well as in Baltimore and also around the country, as remembrances pour in for Elijah Cummings. He is a member of Congress from Baltimore, died early this morning. His office said around 2:45 a.m. Eastern. He died at Johns Hopkins University Hospital as a result of course, he has had a long-term illness for the last several years. Of course, this is someone, of course, 68 years old, who served in Congress nearly 30 years. He came to Congress in 1986 when he replaced Kwesi Mfume, who left that position to become the CEO of the NAACP, the son of a sharecropper from South Carolina. Someone a counselor once said would not be able to talk, so grew up to become one of the greatest orators in Congress, a man of conviction, a man of faith, a man of courage, and someone, of course, who so many people miss. He was leading the impeachment fight against Donald Trump as the chair of the House Oversight Committee. It is a huge, huge loss. And here is the speech that he gave when he first was elected, his first 60-second speech on the floor of the U.S. House.
And there's a poem that Perrin Mitchell said many, many years ago that I say sometimes 20 times a day, and it's a very simple poem, but it's one that I live by. It says, I only have a minute, 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, I did not choose it, but I know that I must use it, give account if I abuse it, suffer if I lose it. Only a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. And so I join you as we move forward to uplift not only the nation, but the world. May God bless you all, and may God bless America.
We're starting to hear that a counselor once said that he would not be able to speak fluently and clearly, yet here's someone who had amazing and powerful oratorical skills, often used as he sat on that committee, the House Oversight Committee, when he even was the ranking member when Republicans were in control, providing thunderous comments, often against so many folks on the panel. And then even when he became the chair of that committee, he made it perfectly clear he was in charge. Here is Elijah Cummings, a sense of how he spoke and how he ran his committee.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. 200 to 300 years from now, people will look back on this moment and they will ask the question, what did you do? What did you do when there was an effort to undercount your neighbors? What did you do when there were folks who literally said that they were going to create a scheme by which whites and non-Hispanic, the Republicans and non-Hispanic whites would be benefited and others not? No. What we've got to say is that we stood up. And all we're doing is trying to get the information. We can't, and we have been stonewalled, not just by the way on the census. We have been stonewalled with regard to information concerning things like hurricane relief, things like the various hush payment money, security clearances. I mean, stonewalled all the way around, and the White House providing us with not a single document. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not America. We are simply better than that. And I'm hoping that all Americans will take a look at this. I may be dancing with the angels when all of this is corrected. But I gotta tell you, we must fight for our democracy. I don't care whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, Conservative, or whatever. The Founding Fathers made it abundantly clear that they would put guardrails up to make sure that when our country slipped and fell a little bit, that we would be okay. They never anticipated that folk would come through and throw the guardrails to the side. And so we march forward. And again, for me, it's a sad moment. Somebody asked me a moment ago, are you happy? No, I'm not happy. I'm not happy because we are in a position where we must defend this democracy. And so, again, I think while it was a sad day, it was a day to say to Americans that we're standing up and we are going to make sure that the Congress of the United States has its rightful power and does what it's supposed to do. That is to be a check on the executive branch, and I thank you.
Joining us right now on the phone line is Houston Congressman Al Green. Congressman Green, it certainly has been a very difficult day for members of the Congressional Black Caucus as well as all members of Congress. Last time you talked with Congressman Cummings.
Last time I talked to him was several weeks ago, to be quite candid with you. As you know, he's been under the weather, and I did have the opportunity to just pat him on the back and let him know that I loved him. He was a good brother. He was a brilliant brother, but he didn't allow his brilliance to outshine his goodness. He exuded goodness. He was the kind of guy that you would want to have sitting next to you when you're in a hearing and you're not sure what to ask. He could always provide you some intelligence that would be worthwhile, something worth saying. Everybody knows that he was known for saying that we are better than this. But you knew that he meant it. It wasn't just words. They were words that were coming from his heart. They may have been manufactured in his head, but they were delivered from his heart.
It certainly has been a very difficult time for him over the last several years, of course, dealing with illness. He had been in and out of the hospital. I know he was, we did not see him at the Phoenix Awards, at the CBCF dinner, which took place on September 15th. I had sent a text message to his wife, Maya Rockamore Cummings, the next day, saying that we certainly had missed him, and she asked that we pray for him. But even with all of that, even with being in a wheelchair, being with a walker, he worked until the end.
Yes, he was a workaholic. He always carried himself such that you knew he was on his way to do something, or he was just leaving some place where something was being done. He was always in the work mode. And it wasn't just work in the sense that he was trying to do something. Work is force times distance. He moved things. He made things happen. He was there to fight for Harriet Tubman being on the $20 bill. He fought to help us to ban the box such that people who were leaving prison would have an opportunity to have opportunities. He was a part of the avant-garde when it came to human rights and human dignity, and just standing up for people that he would never meet and greet. He was there for them here in the halls of Congress. I remember him giving me this quote. He was famous for quoting Dr. King, and we were talking about, to be very candid with you, the president and some of his antics. And he said, there comes a time when silence becomes betrayal, meaning that you have to stand up, you have to speak. And he was one who would do this. I admired him greatly.
Congressman Al Green of Houston, I really appreciate it. Thank you so very much for sharing your remembrances of Congressman Elijah Cummings.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Folks, it's interesting that we're here at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. The last time I saw Congressman Cummings was actually in this building. It was a few months ago. Stanley Nelson, the acclaimed documentarian, they were hosting a screening of his documentary, Boss. And so I got in here right before they had started, and so they started the screening, and so I saw Congressman Cummings, and he was in his wheelchair, and so I walked up right behind him, and I whispered in his ear, his left ear. I said, keep kicking Trump's ass. And so then, he did turn around. So I walked back to my spot. So he sort of turned this way and he saw it was me, and he just bust out laughing. He let out this huge laugh. And anybody, of course, who would come into contact with Congressman Cummings knew that when he would let out that laugh, you can hear it all the time. And so that was something that image, of course, I always remember just him just laughing at what I had to say. And the bottom line is that he was tough. He was someone who took no stuff, who ran his committee and made it perfectly clear that he was in charge, was fair about it, but was not going to allow Republicans to run over him. Remember, early in this presidency, Elijah Cummings met with Donald Trump at the White House to work on prescription drugs. And he said that if you work with us, you could be a very good president. Yet it's the same president a few months ago who trashed Baltimore, talked about it was rat infested, and had nasty things to say about Congressman Elijah Cummings. And so that's what we're dealing with in the nation's capital. We have heard tributes from, of course, lots of Democrats, but also a number of Republicans as well. Joining us right now is Congressman Emanuel Cleaver from Kansas City. Again, another member of Congress, the member of the Congressional Black Caucus. Congressman Cleaver, certainly condolences to the CBC losing one of its members. Just your thoughts and remembrances about your colleague, the late Congressman Elijah Cummings.
Well, we just left a little private spiritual hour together with the Congressional Black Caucus, during which I and Bobby Rush, who is also an ordained minister, carried words to our colleagues about Elijah Cummings and about death and some other things that relate to us as a family, as an African-American family here in the nation's capital. Elijah Cummings was a good friend of mine. When I left the floor last night, the last conversation I had was Marcia Fudge, and during that conversation, I agreed that I would reach Elijah this morning, early in the morning, because he had told me to call him early when I needed to reach him. But I was awakened this morning early with a phone call telling me that he had indeed died, and we had no idea that I guess he had slipped into a coma. But he was a good and decent man. He is the reason that I'm supporting impeachment. I was very slow to support impeachment because I didn't want to, create two Americas that it seems as if we may inevitably do create. But when the President of the United States attacked Elijah Cummings, attacked his community, attacked his city, just think about it. The President of the United States, an American president, attacking an American city verbally. And I thought, this is too much. And so I announced my change on Fox. I was on a Fox interview when I said, I'm now supporting impeachment. I was asked, well, why are you supporting it now? And I said, because of what the president did with Elijah Cummings. And Neil Cavuto said, well, that's no reason for impeachment. I said, you're absolutely right. But if anybody can do this, if anybody can attack somebody like Elijah Cummings thoughtlessly, pointlessly, that person's not a good person. And he's subject to do a lot of other things. So that's the place that he held in my heart. He and I did have problems because he was a jackleg preacher, and he and I, could never resolve the fact that he went to law school. I went to seminary. I didn't try to practice law, and he should stop trying to practice ministry. But he preached every chance he got, and you probably know that. And so that was our big argument. His mother and father were clergy members, Pentecostal, and I had him in Kansas City, introduced him to speak at a banquet, and then he preached. And so other than that, he was a fabulous human being. He many people probably don't know, he's Phi Beta Kappa. he asked me not to tell people that when I introduced him, but of course, we were proud of that fact. And Elijah Cummings lived in the house where he grew up, in the neighborhood where he grew up. And some of us who went down to Baltimore when they were in the midst of all of those problems, and we were all just awestruck by the fact that everybody in that community, and some of them were alcoholics, some of them were hoodlums. Many of them had arrest records who gathered around Elijah Cummings. They all loved him. They loved him. I mean, he was who he was. He never changed. And with a Phi Beta Kappa and all the other accolades he's received over his lifetime, he was, in fact, loved in his community. And theologically, we're told people don't love you in your own hometown. So says Jesus. I think Elijah Cummings may be the one exception.
Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, we certainly appreciate you joining us on Roland Martin Unfiltered to share your thoughts and remembrances about the late Congressman Elijah Cummings. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Good to be with you.
Folks, in a moment, I'm going to be joined by Congressman Steven Horsford of Nevada. And when you talk about, again, just the kind of guy Elijah Cummings was. So when we had TV One's News One Now, we had a first anniversary party, which coincided with my birthday party, and I had it at my house. So this was we launched this show in 2013, so this was in 2014, and I invited Maya Rockamore and Congressman Cummings, and even though I lived way out north of Virginia, they came from Baltimore, and he had such a good time, and so. I tell you, first of all, he loved the gumbo that my dad made, as well as the crawfish etouffee. But that was this cake, this cream cheese filling cake my mom made. And man, I said, look, you got to get a piece. He's about to leave. I said, we're gonna cut this cake and get a piece before you go. And we cut that cake, and he said, oh man, he said, look, I'm glad I stayed. And I had to have a few extra pieces of cake for him to take home, him and his wife. But he had a great time that night. It was great to have him there to celebrate with us the first anniversary of News One Now. And the reality, look, he was a supporter of the show. He would come on the show. We would call him early in the morning. Sometimes he would like, dang, Roland, it's early. He would also come on the Tom Joyner Morning Show, and I always appreciated that he would take my phone calls and come onto the show. Do we have Congressman Horsford on the line?
Good evening. How are you?
Congressman Horsford, glad to have you back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Just your initial thoughts on the passing of Congressman Elijah Cummings.
Well, our entire country, the institution of Congress, lost a fierce soldier and fighter for so many important causes. As one of the newer members of Congress, first and foremost, my heart and condolences go out to Dr. Maya Rockamore and the entire Cummings family for their loss. Know that we are lifting you up and praying for you. They've been great friends and mentors to me and my wife, and just very heartbroken that he's no longer with us. But one thing, we all got together tonight, the Congressional Black Caucus members. We prayed. Congressman Cleaver and Congressman Bobby Rush gave a word, and we are going to carry on Congressman Cummings' spirit, his legacy, everything that he has fought for, because that's what he would want and expect of us at this time.
Obviously, this is a huge loss, not only because he was a sitting member of Congress, but also he was one of the most important voices when it came to the impeachment inquiry of Donald Trump. He has been one of the leading forces. And so it also is a loss for House Democrats because of his leadership at this time, along with Congressman Jerry Nadler, as well as Congressman Adam Schiff.
Well, no doubt about it. He has played a very important and integral role as the chairman of the Oversight and Government Reform Committee. You know, he's literally been advising the Speaker, the leadership, Chairman Schiff. They talked about the fact that just on Friday we had a conference call with the entire House Democratic Caucus, and Chairman Cummings was, you know, telling us where things were with the investigation and the current proceedings. And so it will be a tremendous loss to the process because of his long-standing experience and knowledge of how government works, the Inspector General process, and so many aspects of the Oversight Committee that he ran. But we have a job. We have to carry it on. I am honored. In my first term in Congress, I actually served on the Oversight Committee under his leadership. And like I said, he was a mentor to me. He's been mentor to many, many members of Congress, not just Democrats, but Republicans as well, because he really took the time to care about other human beings, no matter how busy he was, no matter what issues were facing him in his health issues. He was always there to listen and to give a word of advice.
All right, Congressman Steven Horsford of Nevada. We surely appreciate it, sir. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Roland.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Folks, Life Luxe Jazz Experience taking place in Cabo, November 7th through the 11th. Of course, if you want to attend, go to lifeluxejazz.com, LIFELUXEJAZZ.com. But if you cannot be in Cabo for those 4 days, 14 different amazing artists, then of course you could live stream it. Get your live stream pass at gfntv.com. That's gfntv.com. As I said, amazing artists: Gerald Albright, Alice Bouillon, Kirk Whalum, Donna McClurkin, Shalia, Roy Ayers. Man, it's going to be an unbelievable 3-day extravaganza. And so look forward to you participating. And again, get your live streaming pass to cover those 3 days, all 14 concerts. You'll be able to watch right here on your phone, on your iPad, computer. Does not matter. Go to gfntv.com. That's gfntv.com to get your live stream pass. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.